Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you, featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today, my guest is Stephen Foster. He's a comedic actor and a writer. It's a long road from Bedford, Texas to Hollywood, and it's a long road from Hollywood to fame and fortune. I want to introduce my audience to this amazing Stephen Foster. Welcome to the Susan Brender Show.
Hi, Susan. It's good to be here.
Well, you know, you decided to be an actor when you were in 9th grade after accidentally signing up for a stagecraft class?
Yeah, when I went into high school, you could actually pick your electives. And on this long list of like wood shop and home economics and graphic arts, I saw this thing that said stagecraft. And I said, well, that's interesting. And I'd never thought about going on stage. And I walked into the classroom the first day, and the teacher, I didn't even know who Joan Crawford was, but she reminded me of like a Joan Crawford type because she was very flamboyant, and all the kids in the class were so animated and had such interesting personalities. Just something in me said, this is where I belong. And it was actually a backstage class where we worked on the stuff backstage, like publicity, props, costumes, but it was also it also melded into the acting part, the advanced acting part with all the seniors. So as a young freshman, I got to be involved in all this, in all the production. So it was like a crash course, hands-on training for all realms of theater, and I just felt at home, and it was just an incredible experience. I never forgot it.
Yeah, and Stephen, it seems that you became an actor because it was the only way you could find self-expression and self-esteem. Tell our audience about that.
Well, I was a very shy, withdrawn child growing up. I was very short for my age. I had asthma. We moved around a lot when I was a kid, so it was really hard for me to find any form of self-expression and self-esteem. And for some reason, when I started acting, even though it was very scary for me to be in front of an audience, it was the only way I found that I could actually express myself. And by being someone else, I sort of adopted my own personality through acting. So it was a very life-altering thing that happened to me.
And, you know, your acting career path led you to writing Awakening the Actor Within, and I think it's a very interesting title. And so I'd like my audience to know a little bit about your new book, Awakening the Actor Within.
Well, Awakening the Actor Within grew out of when I was in college, I actually blocked as an actor. And what I mean by blocked as an actor is I went to college and I worked really hard and they would never cast me in anything. And so I got really discouraged and I stopped acting. And it really hurt. And I didn't have any tools or anything to help me, and I couldn't even really talk to the teachers about it. And through some fluke, I met this friend of mine. We were working together at a record store, and he sort of tricked me back into acting by putting together these little skits. And at the same time, I started reading this book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way, which is about unblocking your creativity and being more creative, basically, in all realms of your life. And through some fluke, Scott and I ended up having our show produced. And so through that book, The Artist's Way, I became unblocked. And then I said, well, I want to act. And then as I started to act, I actually discovered there were a lot of blocks that just come from the acting journey. And when I first started to write my book, it basically was notes that I had taken on my own journey, the things that had happened to me and the frustrations. And I originally wanted to call my book Dr. Theater, because I found that when I'm acting, I actually feel healthy and vital and alive, and that I have something to contribute to the world. And so my acting workbook is about teaching actors how to overcome their blocks and their frustrations and their challenges, and to act with more passion, more clarity, and less of the hurdles, learning to deal with those hurdles and getting over them instead of becoming blocked and discouraged.
Yeah, and during that time that you were writing your book and doing acting jobs, you picked up the habit of writing, and I know that you've written award-winning plays such as The Green Room with Chuck Pelletier and Legends and Bridge, and screenplays, Rainbow Sticker with the same person, Chuck, and you clubbed and Pyramid Scheme. I mean, tell us, our audience, more about that as well.
Well, my writing, what happened to me in college is, because I was such an eager student and learner, I read a lot of plays. And through, when I became blocked as an actor, when I found out I wouldn't be cast as an actor, I said, well, shoot, I read a lot of plays. I think I'll just write a play. Oh. And I had two friends in college, and my first play was basically about us three, my friendship with these two girls. And so through that process, I actually wrote through the years. I kept a journal, and then I ended up being involved in theater. Like I said, once I met Scott, we did our own show, and then I started writing plays. I wrote Legends and Bridge, and then I hooked up with Chuck, and he said, well, I have this one-act musical, and then I became a co-writer of that, and then Chuck and I started to write screenplays together. So now I have this huge body of work that has been an extension of my acting, because what I like to do is I like to write and I like to act. I kind of think of myself as if Woody Allen and Bette Midler had a kid, it would sort of be me, because I write and I act and I'm funny, and writing is just another way. It's a way for me to stay grounded. And in my book, I tell actors, write stuff down. Write about your journey. Write about people who get on your nerves. Write about your boss. Write about people you love. Write your story, because that is the most interesting thing in the world if you write the truth. Because I used to write a lot of quote-unquote fiction, and it was funny and clever and well-crafted, but it was when I started actually writing the truth of my life that actually people responded more powerfully to my work. So I always teach actors to write as well as act, because if something goes wrong in their acting career, they can always have something to fall back on, and it's something creative.
Yeah, you said a lot in that statement, because, yes, I'm sure that writing and also acting they're tough, very tough occupations, but you chose a direction that seems to be very good for you, because listen to your passion. Now, one thing I want to focus on a little bit is that your dream was to be a top comedic genius like Buster Keaton, but you said you would settle for Carol Burnett. I mean, Carol Burnett's pretty funny. Well, this is really interesting. I want to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, it's sort of a joke, because both of those people are creative icons. Buster Keaton was a fabulous silent screen comedic actor, and everything he did was complete genius. And what I mean by I'll settle for Carol Burnett is Carol Burnett was mainstream TV. It was a smaller venue that she did. It wasn't the big silver screen like Buster Keaton. So what I meant by that is I'll settle for that type of fame as well, because they were both comedic geniuses. I mean, Carol Burnett is the funniest woman ever to have lived, or in my opinion, and Buster Keaton, I believe, is one of the funniest actors who lived on on silent screen. So it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke.
It really is funny, and so I'd like to understand when you're both writing and you're acting and you're a comedian, what are the things you like to do to relax? I mean, that's a lot of work.
Well, I spend a lot of time alone. I like to read. I like to go on long car drives. I like to go on vacation. I like to just go anywhere. I also love to go to libraries. I love bookstores. For me, relaxation is, when I don't even have anything really to do. I can just let my mind wander. And, I also like to just, be with friends and enjoy time. But a lot of my work, a lot of my friendships are tied into my work. So for me to take even when we go on vacation, it's usually because we're going somewhere to see one of our shows. And in fact, I just found out today that our musical, The Green Room, is having another production in Ireland. So, I don't know if we're going to go to it, but, so much of Chuck and our travels has been like going to places to see our work. And so that to me is very relaxing. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. Well, so do you believe anyone can be an actor?
I believe that people have extreme talents. The reason I say that I believe anyone could be an actor is because it was so weird that I became an actor. And I think that if I can do it, anybody can do it. If you just can look at yourself and you can put yourself out there and you have the constitution, I think anyone can be an actor, only because I did it. Now, I say that, but then I'll also say it takes a lot of work, a lot of concentration, and you got to give up a lot of stuff. And I tell that to early actors. I say, you're going to love the creativity part of it, but you're not going to love the stuff you have to give up. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to give up a lot if you really want to do this. But then I believe there are different degrees of acting, too. There's community theater where people do it on the weekend. There are people who make student films. Not everybody is going to become rich and famous, like Brad Pitt or anything like that, or Meryl Streep. I mean, acting takes on many different stripes, and I believe people act every day. I believe any day you go to your office, you're acting, to some degree.
And I know that there's a lot of skill to acting. There is no question about it. But the fact is that when you get into that acting mode, don't you think it transforms you in ways you can't even describe?
Yes. I think acting and the creative aspects of acting put you in a very spiritual position. And what I mean by spiritual position, I mean that you're using all of your faculties. You use your body, you use your mind, you use your sixth sense. There are so many things that happen that fire when you're acting. Like I can be having a pretty dull day. And let's say that for some reason, let's say at the end of that day I have a film shoot or something that I'm going to film. I won't really feel like it. But once I get there, it's like all things open up. It's very strange that the energies that move through actors when they actually act, and that's why, I wrote the book Awakening the Actor Within, because you really awaken and come alive when you act. And even not even acting, even the pursuit of, let's say, a career can make you feel enlivened and in touch with your vitality and your sixth sense and all that good spiritual stuff.
I'm interested in knowing, Stephen, whether an actor can also have another career, even though certainly it takes a lot of his time or her time to do the shows and to do everything else they do. So, if you had a choice of taking on another job, what kind of career would you like?
If I had to take on another job besides actor or writer, I would take on a job as director.
Oh.
I would be a director.
Now, tell our audience exactly what a director does.
A director does everything. A director puts everything together. A director actually puts the scenes and the actors. They're the ones who oversee all that stuff. So anything that you see is the director's responsibility.
And of all the directors that you know, I mean, you live in California and you must be surrounded not only by actors and directors and producers, but of all the directors that you've known, who's the one that you admire the most?
That I know? The one that I admire the most, I think, would be Chuck Pelletier, because he's the one that I wrote these things with, the screenplays, but he also directed me in something this past year, and I really respect him because he really has a sense of me and my character and what I can do. There's also other people that I've worked with that I respect as well, but I respect anyone that has a vision and can bring that vision to light.
Interesting. So you are now on a certain path, and you've done so much, but where do you go next?
Well, next is what I'm working on now is I'm working on doing more indie films. I want to be more in festivals. I've been in about 5 or 6 of them these past couple of years. And so I want to be more in festivals, and I also want to do more web material because I think that that's really vital and a real new avenue. So I'm thinking my work is more moving into like indie films and more web-based because that's the material that I really find is vital. I found that I didn't really do so well when it came to like auditioning for TV. That just was not my niche, but quirky characters in movies was certainly my niche. And that's where I've been the past couple of years doing indie movies, small films, small parts and features, and I'm even the lead in a movie. And so I want to get more into, like I said, the film festival circuit and the web-based material.
So tell the audience also what inspires you, what turns you on and gets you excited about this life that you lead?
Well, it's the creative force. It's the creative energy. It's the doing something with my life. What I used to do a lot of theater, Susan, and what I didn't like about theater is I felt like I wasn't leaving any mark. Like you do a show and it would be great and people would love you and blah, 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 blah. But it wasn't until I started doing film and web material that I said I really like the idea of having a body of work and leaving something behind. Yeah. You know, I have put my stamp on the world, and it's unique, and it's different. And that's what gets me excited. Mm-hmm. That gets me more excited than just, going out for auditions and trying to be famous and trying to make a living at acting. I care more about, I actually did something. I was in something. I created something. And people will always be able to read my book. People will always be able to read my plays. People will always be able to see the film work I've done. That is a living and breathing catalog. So that excites me.
Oh, boy. And what a career you've led. And so what is unique about your approach? Is there something special that you're doing that perhaps nobody else is doing? Or maybe they're doing it, but it's still unique to you?
Well, I think my approach is unique in terms of what I teach actors. My approach is you're the only you that will ever exist. And you've got to find a way to make you the best that you possibly can be. And every actor has a different path and a different pursuit. And you can't just tell two actors to do the same thing and expect both of them to succeed. One might and one might not, because the other one, they're two different personalities, and they're two different energies, and they're two different paths that each actor has to take. And so I tell actors, don't judge your work by what someone else is doing. Only judge it to where you feel you are. Yeah. So I think that's a different approach. And I always tell actors, you may be good on stage and that might satisfy you and it might not. Doing improv might satisfy you and it might not. Doing stand-up might satisfy you. Doing film work might satisfy you. It might not. It depends on your temperament and what you are trying to express. So my approach is very unique because it's very user-friendly. I always turn it back to the actor. What do you think? What's your perception? What do you want? As opposed to always looking outside and saying, I want to do all acting. I want to do everything. Because that might not be someone's passion.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense what you say. But, I want to do something very different. And what I'd like you to do is put yourself in my seat, in my chair, and interview me for a moment, because I want to hear some of your interview skills. You're an actor, you're a playwright, and I see you almost like in the seat of Johnny Carson and various other people. So, okay, what question do you have for me?
Susan, what inspires you? What pushes your buttons?
That's a great question. So, what inspires me is when I meet people like you. And the reason that is the case is because you have this very, let's call it a very free and skilled and wonderful approach to life. And I think that's one of the most important things that somebody can have. You are just a special person. So that's, I think, the way I would answer your question. Now, here's the next thing I want to know from you. If you had a one-size-fits-all approach, or do you individualize your instruction? Now, we've talked about that a bit, but just let's continue to discuss that. Is it an individual kind of instruction to the world, to young people, to older people? What would you say to them?
Well, my approach in my workbook is I get everybody doing the same thing, first of all. I get everybody doing something called I remember. And what you do is you just write a page every day, starting with the sentence, I remember. And you keep those. And at the end of, let's say if I'm teaching 12 weeks, that will be a catalog of what a student remembers of their own life. And the second thing I do is I get actors to reading scripts. And I always say to them, read what you think you will love. And so my approach to actors is always personal, because I believe every actor has such good stuff within them, and they don't really let it out because they're too worried about the audition. They're too worried about how they're going to be seen. And so I get everybody working with those two tools primarily. And then what they start to discover is they have these riches inside of them. They have a unique personality. And so what I start to do is I say, okay, what are we going to do with that unique personality? How can we use that personality or your persona or your image to make your acting strong, powerful, and vital? So it's all about the individual. In fact, if I'm teaching a room full of students, they're all so different to me, and everyone is so uniquely talented. And what I love to focus on is what makes a person unique. You know, like for me, I'm 5 feet tall. I have a weird voice, and I'm just really quirky. You know, even the way I do things is very quirky. Now, if I were go back to my story when I was in college, if they would have told me that, that could be transmuted into funny and humor, I would never have blocked. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
So I think so many actors, they're sort of put on a treadmill or cookie cutter, and I think that is detrimental to each actor's journey.
Yeah. And so you talk about yourself as a child, and you say that you were quirky and that you're short and that there's something weird about your voice. But somehow, how did you get through that? Because you just seem to have so much confidence and self-esteem.
Well, it was through acting.
Oh.
It was through acting and through writing and learning to trust that what I had to offer the world was a unique perspective. And, and there was something unique about me that if people just looked at it and said, oh, that's kind of fun, that it actually, I just became confident out of necessity. It wasn't just one day I woke up and I had confidence. It was through acting and through being on stage and being on film that I just said, hey, this is what I got, and it's good enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are good words. It's wonderful when you feel that things can work out for you if you just give it a chance. So I think that was a wonderful statement. Now, let's get back to your book, because you are now, that's one of the things that you're doing, and I'm sure that it's also very interesting for you. So tell us a little bit more about your book.
Well, my book is a course. It is a course for actors. I put it together based on my early workshops and working with actors through the years, and I found that if actors are put on a course and they work week by week, what happens is they can actually start removing the blocks that are in their way and the challenges. And so what I do is I wrote it in a 12-week format, and that means every week you do some exercises, you do some tasks, and one of the most vital things I think I teach people is at the end of each week, I have actors check in, and I have them write down, once again, back to writing, I have them write down what happened that week. Did you have any experiences that were inspirational? Did you have any help from the universe? Did something come up to block you? What happened in that week? That way, it encourages them to keep going. That way, it gives them a track, a sort of a sheet, week by week, of what they actually did. And I find that if actors share that information with another actor, they actually, I call it the buddy system. And actually, if you share that with someone else will say, it probably wasn't that bad. Why don't you just keep going to auditions, Mm-hmm. Or, oh, yeah, I've had money situations too. I'm sure you'll work it out, or let's look for a job together. I find that if actors work together in twos or in groups of bigger than that, they actually can mirror each other and use each other as batteries to enhance their journey. So my book is very user-friendly. It's very geared toward how can I make an actor powerful? How can I make an actor feel good about themselves? Because there's so many classes and so many techniques that are all about criticism and you should have done better at an audition or you should be more successful. And I try to gear it toward you're already enough. You're already successful, and you're successful if you keep trying.
Those are, again, words of wisdom. Stephen, if somebody wants to buy your book, how can they follow you on Facebook and Twitter? Do you have a special address that you could give them?
Well, the easiest way is through my website, www.CStephenfoster.com, and that will take them to my Twitter and to my Facebook and give them my email address, and that's the easiest way to contact me.
Well, that's great, and I always like to give my guests the last word. Is there something that you'd like to tell the audience?
I would. It's my favorite acting advice, and it's from the actress Ruth Gordon, who was in Harold and Maude. And when she went to the Academy of Dramatic Arts when she was a youngster, she actually got kicked out. And they said, we don't think you're suited to acting. Don't come back. And 50 years later, she won the Oscar for Rosemary's Baby. And the Academy of Dramatic Arts invited her back to give the graduation speech to the students. And this is basically what she said to them. She said, never give up. On that dreadful day when someone says, you're not talented, you're no good, you're too tall, think of me, who's standing here now in front of you, and never give up.
Those are definitely words that are special again, and I love Ruth Gordon as well. And for me, when she was in Where's Papa, nothing made me laugh like that. So You've chosen a wonderful person to kind of quote, and I'm so pleased to have you on my show. Thank you very much, Stephen Foster, for being on the Susan Brender Show.
Susan, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to The Susan Brender Show.